Hello.
Hello, Dr. Nelson.
Hello, and how are you?
I'm
Sorry
good.
for I got the timing wrong.
Yeah,
Probably.
no worries. No worries.
Yeah,
So,
that's
so
why.
it's all right. Should we begin?
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
Shall we begin?
absolutely. Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you are ready, then we can start. Yeah.
Yes. So, may I ask the organizing secretary, Dr. Kiran, whether I could start?
Yes, ma'am, you can start, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you. Excellence endures and sustains. It goes beyond motivation into the realms of inspiration, quoted Azim Premji. On behalf of the principal, management, and organizing committee of the International Virtual Faculty Development Program, hosted by School of Social Work, Roshani Nilaya, Mangaluru, India, I, Dr. Sandra Lobo, extend a cordial welcome to the last session of the week's program. Indeed, excellence has sustained for the past 6 days, and our participants have been motivated and inspired enough. A warm welcome to the speaker of today's session, Dr. Nelson de Souza from Australia. A seasoned leadership and talent development professional with a unique blend of expertise in industry and academia, Dr. D'Souza is an innate learner and a people developer. Infused with an exceptional desire to help people explore, expand, and excel in leading a fulfilled life, Dr. D'Souza had incredible opportunity to work with people in developing human and leadership capital. He had the privilege of partnering with world-class executive education providers like Duke Corporate Education, Harvard, RBL, and INSEAD in co-creating cutting-edge leadership and learning solutions. Driven by vision and passion, his key areas of expertise also include diversity and inclusion, personality and leadership assessments, innovation and design thinking, and team management. Without further ado, I cordially invite Dr. Nelson de Souza to address us on the theme Student Wellness and Integral Development. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sandra. Good day, everyone from Sydney, Australia. Um, it has been my privilege, and thanks to the organizers for involving me in this particular initiative, which is a global initiative. My alma mater, Roshini Laya, Mangalore School of Social Work. And thanks to all the organizing team for a wonderful job. And I have been blessed, in fact, to be available to at least have a glimpse of what happened in the last 6 days, including from Donald D'Souza to Jagdish, Mr. Jagdish, Sister Babe, Mr. Prakash Gosin, Dr. Sheshagiri, and yesterday's Harold and Hriday Raval. So I think today's topic, what I'm going to talk about, would be something I would say probably a fabric woven from the last 6 days. Student wellness, integral development. Ultimately, everything boils down to the wellness of students, because all of us who are in the higher education sector, who are working, have a purpose, and this purpose is fulfilled only when our students do better in their life. So with this little note, let me share the little presentation I have prepared, and probably you can tell me whether you can see it very well. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah, very good. I'm not very tech savvy. I'm trying to get there. Okay. So besides what Sandra mentioned about me, thank you very much, Sandra, once again for that introduction of mine. And as you must have gathered from my introduction, for Sandra's introduction, I'm more of a industry person. My life over almost 3 decades has been in corporates, working in different countries, different geographies, different organizations. But nevertheless, I have over 2 decades of adjunct teaching experience. I've always been associated with universities the countries where I worked. I started immediately after my PhD studies from Tata Institute. When I joined Aditya Birla Group, evenings I used to go and teach at Xavier's Institute of Management, Narsim Monji Institute of Management Studies, Bajaj, Jamnalal Bajaj Institute. Then when I moved to Australia, I started teaching at Western Sydney University. And then again, when I moved to Middle East, Dubai, I used to teach at University of Wollongong in Dubai. And then when I returned from Dubai back to Sydney, I started teaching back with Western Sydney, then Navitas and Central Queensland University. So teaching in nutshell has been my passion. And in a way, I said that it is giving back to the community. I always love to teach and be with the students. For some personal interest also to always remain young and mentally agile, because students always question you. And that questioning always keeps you on your toes and makes you read. And being a learner, as Sandra was mentioning, being a learner myself, I think that there is no end for learning. It's a lifelong learning. Life is full of learning. And teaching gives that opportunity to learn. And you learn a lot from students. And many times you find that sometimes students know more on a particular subject because they are more current on that particular subject. Having said that, yes, I am more associated at this point of time teaching at postgraduate level and executive MBA students. My focus areas are human resource development, human resource management, integrated business experience, research projects. And I love that. And besides that, I'm involved in leadership development training as well as consulting assignments. So with this background, so what I'm sharing with you is my little experience at higher education. May not be at a full-time basis, but definitely people who are working, people who have been doing full-time education, whatever my experience has been from that point of view, I've been sharing. And the agenda for this particular talk is I'm going to set the context, going to share the context with you initially. Then what is student wellness? What do you mean by that? What do we mean by that? What are different dimensions of wellness? And then toward the end, a closing question where everyone can really pitch in and say, what does this mean to you as a higher education professional? So the context is, if you see the landscape of higher education has seen rapid changes over the last few years, including the way that information is delivered to students. And of late, due to COVID, it is still, I would say, has changed, which you never could think about. There are today the courses, massive open online courses, MOOCs, which is there for students at higher education, which wasn't there when I studied higher education. The type of students attending the college, university, and arguably the most importantly, the way that individuals perceive the value of higher education has significantly changed. When I did my master's at Roshni Nilaya years back, and then I did my PhD later after working a couple of years in corporate, and then I worked in the corporate sector. And it wasn't that for me that new, okay, I could really, in the corporate sector, there were many people and my bosses were PhD as well in the corporate sector as well. And it was good, a joy to work with people who are like-minded in the corporate industry as well. But when I moved to Australia in 1999, to my surprise, my boss was just a high school certificate. She was very good at her job. I don't underestimate her expertise. For a time, for me, it was a culture shock. And say, okay, I'm a PhD with about
Sir, unmute yourself, sir. Sir, unmute, sir.
okay. Where did I stop? Where did you lose me? Did you?
So you were
Sorry,
talking.
Alex.
You were talking about your boss being a high school certificate holder.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, thank you. So I faced this reality. It struck me, and I found every other person in HR doesn't have even an undergrad degree. So I was just wondering, where am I? But when I moved back, I moved to Dubai and returned, I could see a significant change today. Today, no one is a high school certificate. No, everybody is undergrad or a postgrad in the organizations, and they are very particular sometimes in the advertisement for posts of officer, manager, even training. They are looking for people with undergrad degree. So this rapid landscape of higher education has significantly changed. In United States, I read a piece of research says 60% of the jobs will require higher education degree in another 4 to 5 years time. Yes, India has a significant amount of higher educated qualified people, but still then I think compared to the population, it is still. So we are in a knowledge economy. We are now more in an IT economy. Knowledge is power. So everybody is trying to acquire knowledge, and higher education is one form of that. And that's where I'm trying to, what pressure it has really created around the world, and in developing world and in the developed world. Both are having this pressure of asking children, parents asking children to study. Every youth is looking forward to go higher because they know that high school doesn't find you a job. There are no jobs, anything. So people think that something you study higher provided will get a good job. The second one is second context point is mine is having a farmer mindset. So if I'm a higher education professional, if I'm teaching in higher education, is something need to have a farmer mindset. Now, farmer mindset is very close to my heart because my grandfather was a farmer, and no, he didn't go to school, but I really worked with him when the holidays in the fields and in back in India, and which I'll be totally showing you how till today it inspires me and it resonates with me. I'll be using that off and on, and I'll be using that context when I speak about student wellness. The third context point I'll be using as is that faculty, higher education faculty as a leader. Now, what Donald D'Souza in his inaugural, the first day, he was speaking about leadership. So each professional is a leader, is a role model. Every student looks up to besides the parents, looks up to the teacher or the lecturer or the person who is teaching as a role model. Many students have seen subconsciously they emulate the faculty. They emulate the teacher who is teaching the subject. They build connections with the teacher. They would like to stay connected with the teacher because they think that this person is leading my life subconsciously, not by imposing anything. So that's the whole context of, so each person in the higher education sector it's a noble profession. It's a very noble profession because students always relate to their faculty who have really make a difference for them with high esteem. So with that context, let me go ahead and involve you in an image. What do these images convey to you? If you can use the chat box, you can use the chat box. What do these images convey to you? Shruti says, Narayan says growth. Sandra says growth. Shashi, development. Growing fruit bearing trees. Surely, that's good. Yeah. Anything else? Growth. Nurture. Bimrao says nurture. That's good. Yeah. Transformation. Excellent. Development. Planting right seeds. Different phases of development. Excellent. Upbringing or formation of seeds to sapling, then to tree. Dexter. Good. Change. Yes, I think all of you have touched on different as I think it was one of the speakers was speaking about the blind describing the elephant. So all of you have touched on different sides of part of this particular image. Some time back, I had an opportunity to listen to Satish Kumar, who is a great speaker on this education. It really struck me that the farmer looks at the seed and realizes the potential of that seed. A good seed, well nurtured, can bear great fruit year after year for many, many years. One seed of apple does not give you only one apple. The potential of one seed, no one can really estimate. Yeah, you can say the way we reap, the way we sow, what we sow. Yeah. But what is more important for us to know as faculty, what is touching for me is, am I looking at each student as this particular seed which has potential to grow and multifold? It is infinite potential each student has. And sometimes you must really, when I look back, when I started teaching about 20 years back, sharing my experience, and some of the students have outgrown me. They're doing much better than what I am doing. It is something satisfying for me, because that particular seed, that nurturing of that, what the farmer did, today the tree has grown, and seeing that potential. I think each one of us, if you look back at our own life, is something similar. So the care, the soil, the farmer can only give it the proper soil. The soil is very important for the seed to grow. Yes, there is sunlight which may not be in your control. Yes, give the sunlight. Also, probably it is important to sunlight, the manure, the fertilizer, the nurturing, the watering, all that is part of the farmer's job. And let me share a little bit of insight which I had myself in my backyard. I have a little backyard, and every year I look forward to this. When I moved to Australia, I look forward to growing these vegetables. And I relate to the farmer's life. I relate to lecturer's job. I relate to people development in industry job. I relate to human resources job. I relate to all that is people-oriented jobs in this particular garden of mine. I go to my garden every day morning, talk to my plants, tell them, grow, you have the potential, you can do it. What do you require? Is it a manure? Are you watered enough? Is there enough sunlight? There is no sunlight for you. Should I move you from here to another place? Should I give you more attention? Some TLC? What is that you require? And I can see that I did that, and I could see that I was amazed to see that pumpkin or dudi, whatever you call, the way the growth was. It was about 6 kilos one, and not everything what grew without any genetically modified or something. This is organic, pure organic. Now the analogy what I'm giving you is the farmer's delight is the lecturer's delight, or the higher education faculty's delight is when your student is doing very well and bearing fruit multifold in whichever field he or she has chosen, and you have a role to play. I don't say that these vegetables happened because of me. It has many other factors have played a significant role in this. But you have a role. You can confidently say, I have played a role, a significant role, due to which this you could realize this fruit. So to share some research on this, and sometimes it's a bit of a saddening research because of the landscape what I was talking, the rapid changes which are happening in higher education. About 384 young people aged 18 to 24 committed suicide in 219. A colleague of mine, other day, she is a principal in one of the colleges in Mangalore. She was telling me, Nelson, just yesterday, a student committed suicide. It is heartbreaking to know that increasingly students, youth, we are losing youth, and compared to the earlier generations, 40% of all deaths in young people aged 15 to 17 were deaths by suicide in Australia. You can tell me, you can share in the chat box, whether in your own country, whichever country you are, what is the figure there, or what has been the trend there, if there is something different or something similar. Every 13 seconds, there is one divorce in America, which means there are 9 divorces in the time it takes for a couple to recite their wedding vows. And these divorces normally happen within the couple of years, the youth age, not at the later stages. Consistent increase in marriage breakups. Only 16% of workforce is engaged. Gallup study says only 16% of the workforce is engaged, are happy with what they are doing, happy with the job they are doing. All are going otherwise only to work for they want a job. But they are not, the mind is not on the job. The millennials are better educated, people who are born 81 to 95. 1981 to 1995, the millennials, what we so call the generation which is different, is better educated than prior generations. Definitely, yes, you can see they are better educated than what I have. I can see that. Also, they are more agile, more aware about things, what's happening around the world due to all the access on internet and whatever is available. 72% of students feel stressed about their finances in general. So the research goes on. This I've only gathered some of the things in my reading, and some things which I could find relevant. There are a lot of other things which are there. If you can see in the higher education sector, in student wellness is concerned, what's happening. Shruti says every 40 students, one student commits suicide here in India. Yeah. 40 seconds, sorry, every 40 seconds. Wow, that is alarming. That is alarming. So why this particular thing? Why this phenomena is there, which is precarious, which is dangerous, which is not a healthy sign? Shouldn't we share the blame for this? While there is progress happening, shouldn't we also, when we see the fruit, as I said earlier, and we feel satisfied, something has been missing somewhere, that people are deciding to this. So let's move on. So what is student wellness? So what, in your opinion, use the chat box, what do you think is student wellness? Happy learning, Pitra says. Happy learning. Shruti says, value-based education, creating joy and curiosity. Wellness by all means. Conducive environment. Enthusiastic. Holistic formation of student. Yeah, good. Holistic development of student. Good. Emotional well-being. Excellent. Any other views on wellness when wellness is concerned? Just for living. Leading a satisfying life with hope. Excellent. So, maturity, yeah. They find meaning and purpose in life, yeah, that's good. Finding meaning and purpose in life. Anything else? Okay. Spiritual being, excellent. I think you have, all of you have, thanks for your contribution, thanks for posting your views, self-contentment. Yeah, you have touched again on different aspects of it. So the concept of wellness is, as you have seen from the views, is much more than being physically fit. As Lakshmi says, behavioral and emotional wellness is much more than being physically fit and emotionally stable. it is more than an individual factor. It's not one individual factor. Wellness is based on a holistic approach, as a couple of people said about holistic, with numerous factors included and all being interconnected. So that's why the topic is student wellness integral development. It's not in one. So it's interconnected. The student joins the university not only for job, but become an educated citizen. Yes, it might be saying that, okay, I'm looking for a job and that's why I'm doing it. But I think wellness, when we are speaking about student wellness, our aim is to have an educated citizen, a literate citizen. So if you look at the dimensions of wellness, which I have weaved in, or looking at all aspects and how critical it is, having some reflective thinking on this, it says it's helping students in reaching their potential by understanding the interconnectedness of each aspects of life. So if you look at, there's no any order of preference, put it, just each one is equally important. But each dimension, if you see, intellectual, occupational, social, emotional, physical, spiritual, environmental, and financial, all are interconnected. They don't function in isolation. Sometimes they function together. So it is, as some of you already have mentioned, it is a holistic approach towards a student's development. So it's integral development. So each dimension is equally important and is integral to the development of a student, which is why we call holistic development. So let us look at each of the dimension in detail, and feel free to little post your, if at all you have some views in the chat box. So the intellectual wellness is being creative, allowing the student to be creative. Rather than trying to be a bonsai, you're trying to prune and remove the creativity of the student, allow the person to be creative. Maintain the originality, being original, because every student is unique. I still recall when my daughter went to study, now they are in higher education, both of them are higher education, so I interviewed them also for this particular presentation. So when she was in kindergarten or in primary, one day she came and showed me a big poster saying that her name is Niriksha. Niriksha is unique. So then what does that mean? No, Papa, Niriksha is unique. So she said, there is no one like me in this world. So I was really touched by that, though I knew about it, but there's no touched by that. He reminded me about something, that each person is unique, has unique capabilities, unique talents, and can be creative. So be creative, critical thinking, helping the student to think critically, because the world is not something which is defined for us. We have things happening every day. So if you are preparing the student for the world, the very important ability is critical thinking. Being open to new ideas, to be creative, think critically, be open to new challenges. And one of the methods where I am associated with at the university here, we have a lot of case studies. And of course, many universities use these case studies. The case studies are a very good way to immerse a student and help the student to come with critical thinking. Plus, because no case study, as you all know, case study doesn't have one answer. No, there are many perspectives to the case study. So those perspectives can be brought to surface and allow the student to think critically, analyze the case. And that's where the student can develop this intellectual capability, which can help the student use in career later. So higher education can provide this, and it's very important to have the intellectual wellness. Am I prepared to really go through that journey of finding my own solution for a problem? So problem solving is also part of this, because as I said, the world is full of problems. You solve it, you move on. You solve it, you move on, and you become more and more stronger within yourself. So how much the student is exposed to that. The second dimension is occupational wellness. Seek to have a career that is interesting, enjoyable, meaningful, and that contributes to a larger society. Now, this is where I feel that Gallup study of 16% engaged workforce, because many people go for higher education because of peer pressure or parental pressure or something. They do not know what they are really good at. Or probably they might have chosen, but they're still looking for the faculty, the teacher, the lecturer, to help them discover their potential. As one of the speakers was speaking about engagement. I think Donald D'Souza was speaking on the first day. He was speaking about engagement. How important it is to be engaged in your occupation, in what you have chosen to do. If you look at the work of Sir Ken Robinson, sadly he passed away last year. His work on education, there's tremendous work he has done, and I would recommend everyone to read his work, Sir Ken Robinson. There are a lot of videos on YouTube also. In his book, Finding Your Element, he says, people, if they have passion in your occupation, every day is a pleasure to go. You don't feel it is work. And that is why, if the faculty can help the students to find that passion, help to give that direction, provide feedback, the power of feedback is tremendous. As you know, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Champions are born out of feedback. Though feedback sometimes in Indian scenario or sometimes in some other cultures, feedback is as a negative connotation. They think that feedback means something, you catch the person someone doing wrong. I've seen in my own corporate life, when I said, okay, let's have a feedback session, people get scared. Oh, what feedback? But year out year, I've seen people look forward to feedback when I give on the assignment. An assignment, they require feedback. They don't give me marks are secondary. Tell me what I did good, what I did well. Give me detailed feedback. So I had to write a half a page feedback for every assignment, which is a stressful job for the faculty, because you have to write in a way it builds the self-esteem of the student and encourages student to do better in next assignment and also further. Marks are okay, grades are given, but more important is feedback. Now, not only giving feedback to the student, but also receiving how to receive feedback. Receiving feedback is also a skill which has to be developed. So how students can develop this skill of receiving feedback and they also give feedback. Can faculty says, can you give me feedback? In fact, we have feedback surveys and I value it very much. And I insist every student gives feedback on my teaching. I insist that, of course, it is anonymous and we have it at every semester, every quarter, on the unit, on the topic, on the subject, and on the teaching, on the faculty who has taught the unit, on various aspects of it, right from accessibility, right from clarifying questions, right from being available for you to approach, being helpful, all these things, very aspects of it, the teaching style. And it is important for the university also to keep up. Where do we stand in the eyes of the students? Are we on par with other universities? Because it's very important to have the university rank. When you are ranked the university, they say, how do students perceive the university teaching? Because sometimes syllabus are across same, content is same. The teaching can make a difference. The faculty can make a significant difference. So the power of feedback is critical. Volunteering is another aspect which provides experience, develops confidence. So occupational things, because a student doesn't have work experience, he goes sometimes very raw. The industry out there, they say, you guys, you might be very good in studies. I still recall after my master's, I've joined an organization in Bangalore, and I was the personnel in charge. And I was literally, I did very well in my master's, both the years, PM and IR. And then I was very eager to put those things into practice in the firm where I was working. So one fine day, the MD, the managing director called me, Nelson, I know you might have done very well in your master's, you might be a topper or something like that, but remember, many things don't work in practice. So a little bit, he gave me a firing in front of everybody. I said, don't try to be so much that you are trying to put all the theory. Now, when I look back, probably he was right. I should have been able to what works, what doesn't work. Should have been enthusiasm of putting everything in practice, what I learned in the book. But I didn't have that, how do you really work, or what are some of the things could be done. But no offense meant to the teaching curriculum. Within that thing, I always look back, I've gained the best because of the experiential learning and the curriculum design what we had. I think I learned from field work more than sometimes from classroom. So, and the opportunity to volunteer, because volunteering is a great thing in developed world. And also I recall when I did my master's, I had opportunity to volunteer at Father Muller's hospital in Mangalore. Now I organized the anti-leprosy day, and I involved a lot of people from School of Social Work. Till today we are connected. Many of them said such an experience we got to organize that day for the leprosy, to anti-leprosy day. And there were so many patients from the leprosy department and all those things. They're feeling joyful. I feel it is volumes, I would speak. The deep learning which took place by volunteering. How do I contribute to the larger society? Rather than being the bookworm or looking at the being bookish, can I move out of that bookish attitude and see what works in the real life? And that volunteering can really give that, because organizations, especially in developing countries, don't give part-time jobs. In developed world, in Australia, you can get part-time jobs when you're studying, and you can easily get that experience easily, and get that confidence. So research states that people who give their time in volunteering activities compared to those who don't are 42% more likely to be happier. And I can vouch for this, myself being the same thing. I said, wherever I volunteered, be the church where I was involved, or the organizations where I worked, or the institutes I studied, I've always said, yes, it has been taken my time from my studies, but it gave me more joy and more development. rather than reading books and writing assignments from the books. So moving on to the next, and also before I move on to the next, I would like to also highlight the work of David Kolb. David Kolb, who says is the pioneer of experiential learning. He says experience is the best teacher. Now, how do I give this experience to a student? So if you can design exercises, design assignments where the student can get an immersion into the real life situation. For example, of course, all of you might be knowing about this. We have at master's level, students have to do number of presentations on different topics, they prepare, they research and presentation. So I always ask my student, I said, you made this presentation, you went through a concrete experience. Now sit back and say, reflective observation, reflect on what went well, what did go well, what you had planned, but you couldn't deliver. Or sometimes went better than what you expected. So you move on to learning abstract conceptualization. This is where I did well. This is if I do it, I can be better. I'm getting better. And probably if there is a shortfall, or if I didn't do well in a particular, probably I can zero on that and say, okay, this is what I need to fix it next time. That is, I come to abstract conceptualization and then plan out on my next active experimentation, on my next presentation, this is what I'm going to do. And I do it, and then I move on further from there. Now, this is what it says, David Kolb says, gives confidence to students, confidence to managers, confidence to employees, confidence to anyone. Not telling doesn't give confidence. Sometimes we as faculty lecturers tell people what to do, doesn't give confidence. Make them do it. It's just like sometimes I tell my wife, I said, when you're instead of telling how to cook, ask her to cook. My wife does, okay. My daughter, allow her to cook. Give the freedom to cook. You can be, maybe you can watch how she cooks and then give the feedback. Provide feedback. What went well? What didn't go well? Next time when you do it this way better. And that gives confidence to the student or pupil. Similarly, same thing happens in a student's life or in organization life. Now, experiential learning, experience is the best teacher, and experiential learning can be transformational. It can transform very much a person's life and build confidence, because confidence is key for development. So moving on to the next one is social wellness. And social wellness is building relationships with others. Especially today, what we are speaking about, people, students, because of their exposure to social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, chat and other things, they think that I have 500 friends, 500 people I know on Facebook. No, I don't think that is building relationships with others. Those relationships I have seen many times are not constructive or not building anything. They are just sometimes, probably, yes, I don't say that all are bad, but I've not seen. But building relationships is how many times you meet people, you network with them, you interact with them. Bonding takes place on time you spend with the person. So building relations with others, dealing with conflict appropriately. Now, this is a skill which is very critical when you move on in career. All of us who have been career, you know about it very well, how critical it is to deal with conflict. Rather than avoiding conflict, dealing with conflict, and sometimes, many a times, later on you think, wow, we became friends. A lot of air we cleared off. So how do you really think, looking at what is right, then who is right? Now, this particular critical skill to give is very critical for the faculty to put them in problems, give them real simulations in class. Even if it is online class, even a thing, absolutely, I've seen in my online class, people are from Asia, anywhere from Asia, India, Sydney. There are a lot of conflicts which happen. I said conflict is part of life. When they are working on group projects, they come to me, so this is what is happening. No, that person is not responding. What do I do? How do I manage? I said, good. You are blessed to get this real experience. Forget about the grades, what you're going to get. Don't worry about it. I said, reflect on that experience. What it is teaching you. What has it taught you? No. If there are in organizations also, employees are not cooperating. The team, when you work in a team, all may not be as good as you are. No. But how do you really make things work, move around? And having a positive social network. What they say, your network is your net worth. More positive social network you have, you can solve problems and progress faster. I still recall one phone call is enough when you have a good positive relationship and your problem is solved because you trust the person. No? So social wellness is very critical. Social relationships, social skills. And sadly today, because of the social media and smartphone and other things, people are largely missing out on this. And faculty have to put extra effort because it is, whatever generation you are, social skills are still important, critical. Still critical. You talk to any leaders, they say social skills are the one which can really help in the organizations to move up the career. So, moving to emotional wellness, which is a bit of a different thing from social wellness, or is being aware about one's emotions. There is a great science done by Daniel Coleman, the father of emotional intelligence, where he says that emotional intelligence is more critical as you grow in the organizations or any university or anywhere as you grow than pure IQ or intellectual quotient. Intellectual quotient or intelligence is innate, you're born with it. But emotional intelligence could be developed. And this emotional intelligence can help you in managing stress. Because today, students are stressed out. There's assignments, studies, and other things. Now you have to give them stress because stress is healthy. Good stress is very much healthy. Just think about a life without stress. You will not live long. No, you need to have some stress. But how do you manage the stress is a skill that you need to learn. It is always say stress normally sometimes becomes too much when you don't have the appropriate skills to manage it. So managing stress, coping mechanisms are very critical. And at the same time, not being harsh to yourself, but being kind to self. Many times people hate themselves. Students can hate themselves. Oh, why am I doing this? Why I was born? All these things, so stressful. I didn't want to do it. And then they get into things, drugs and other things, alcohol and all other things just to manage stress. That's not the way to manage stress. So research says 1 out of 7 students are affected by mental health issues. And this is about Australia thing, and emotional wellness is that. I'm sure might be similarly in India or in US, UK, no. So it's absolutely critical from that point of view of helping students on managing, being aware about your own emotions, managing your own emotions, and also at the same time, being aware about others' emotions and interacting accordingly. So this is a thing which comes out of practice. Definitely, it's not theory, but probably there are ways of developing this. The science as itself, emotional intelligence. If you read on emotional intelligence, lots of work, lot of work is done on this area, and organizations today are giving more importance to emotional intelligence than intellectual intelligence. You might get a job because of your marks, but you grow in the organization because of your EQ, not of your IQ. Because as leaders, when you go up, EQ is more important. How do I manage people? How do I manage emotions? Do I burst? How do I manage my anger? No. How do I manage multiple things? How do I prioritize? All these are emotions going within you. How do I manage my competition? There is a competition always in organization. You're not alone. It's not a monopoly, right? So all these things, how do I manage? And those leaders who are successfully able to do that, whose EQ is definitely growing and developing, they can do much better and having less health impact, because all these emotions have health impact on the health, personal health, which comes to the next topic, the physical wellness. Physical wellness is being not only physical fitness, it's not absence of disease. It is just having that right attitude toward it. It's just as simple as drinking water. How often you drink water, how much water you drink as students. The food habits, unfortunately today is unlike when I studied, students today are exposed to so much of junk food. No. Recent studies in Australia states that 67% of adults are overweight or obese. 67% of adults are overweight or obese. Similar stats are found in US, which lead to a shorter lifespan and health issues. Taking care of your body for optimal health and functioning is very critical. I've seen leaders in the organization who work day and night, more than 12 hours a day, every day, they burn out. They couldn't manage their personal life and organizational life, and they fall sick because they couldn't hold it. And when the leader is not available, decisions are not made because you end up in the hospital. So regular exercise, not to wait for something, but regular exercise, how important it is as a student to inculcate that consciousness. I don't say that, okay, you have to put everything and make it in your curriculum, but bring that consciousness in students that fitness, physical fitness now is as important as other wellness issues. Having good food habits and regular exercise. Whatever you can be, not necessarily you have to, of course, you can be a yoga or walk or whatever you're getting involved in. But is there a regular, consciously doing work that this is towards the health? Because as Dalai Lama says, people sacrifice their health to gain wealth and then sacrifice their wealth to regain their health. So it is sometimes a tragedy that people don't realize that fitness, physical thing cannot be kept postponed for retirement. No, when I retire, I'll go for a walk. When I retire, I'll do this. It will be probably every day. Even for a teenager, even for a student, even for the thing, it is very important part of so that people can live longer and healthier and better. That's where sometimes I feel education in the developed world is there. Of course, though the junk food and other availability is tempting, is very difficult to really sometimes remain healthy. So the other aspect of wellness is spiritual wellness. I think speakers before me touched on this. Sister Anita Bade was speaking about spiritual strength, interfaith appreciation, and also Jagdish, no, not Jagdish, Dr. Shishagiri spoke about spirituality as well, connecting with self. If you look at this particular element or dimension of wellness, is one that I have seen in my own life, which has given me strength to overcome hardships. There are cyclones in life, tempests in life, tsunamis will be there in your life, everyone's life. Tsunamis come. You do not know when they hit you. But the meaning in life's events, finding a meaning in life's events, demonstrates individual's purpose, connecting with self, as Dr. Sheshagiri was speaking, or live a life that reflects your values. Values such as humility, learning from peers, juniors, empathy. As I was saying, that Sister Baird was speaking about interfaith tolerance and appreciation. In a country like India, there are so many religions. Of course, in Australia also we have religions, many religions, but of course one particular religion, so many religions. Live and let live, appreciating the differences, celebrating the differences between religions. Because all religions have one thing in motto, loving each other. Now, that is the meaning of a religion. The spirituality is that, can I exist and allow others to exist the same way I exist? What is my individual purpose, relating to individual purpose? Why have I come to this earth? What difference I can make on this earth, and what legacy I can leave behind is something spiritual wellness. It is not accumulating wealth and amassing wealth and having a big bank balance. No, I don't say money is not very important. We'll come to that in a moment. But it is more important to know, am I living for what I have come here to this earth? Am I fulfilling my purpose in life? Or what is my purpose in life? Asking that simple question, helping students to help ask that simple question, what is your purpose in life? What are your values? Values such as like gratitude. A simple thank you and seeing something which things I have given every day, rather than cursing the darkness, can I light a candle? We are in the lockdown at the moment in Sydney. I know in India, people have faced lockdown for many, many months. But here I can see some people making a hue and cry, why this lockdown and other things, and absolutely. Some people say, lockdown is good. Their perspectives are there. But rather than cursing and rather than saying those people who are putting the lockdown and saying, can we cooperate and can we behave and help those administrators and leaders to fulfill the purpose, being a valued individual? What is my value and belief? The spirituality is a rock which holds us strong when problems hit us hard from nowhere. I'm talking from my personal experience. Now, if I've moved on from geographies to geographies, organizations to organizations, places to places, tremendous, as you can appreciate, tremendous, you come under tremendous pressures and problems. Not that everywhere everything is defined for you and given to you. So to move a place from Mangalore and move to different continents where you do not know how do you really survive, the spirituality is one, the spiritual wellness is one which has helped me deeply in finding meaning in life's events and looking at staying positive towards it. Now, those of you know positive psychology or something like that, you can speak about, you can think about that. What I mean that how do I remain positive in adversities, in adverse situations? So helping students to really finding this particular thing, they can really see that value of it as they grow in career and as they grow in life. The other thing is environmental wellness. We know we don't live for ourselves. Though there are many times we can see people being very self-centered, and especially in the developed world where individualism is there. If you look at the culture, very individualistic compared to the culture in India, where it is collectivistic. We always care for others and look at others, absolutely, we will reach out to others. There is much more warmth I can see. But being aware of interconnectedness, can we survive by our own? We may not be able to survive. Think about a day that you can survive without others being there. Your community, the larger society, the environment, the oxygen, the trees, the flora and the fauna. Appreciating the environment and being in sync with that and trying to relate to that, showing care for these responsibly. And that is, I think, environmental wellness. As a student, how do I really bring about that particular wellness? How can I, as a faculty, demonstrate, be a role model in this wellness? Sometime back, I still remember when Dr. Linda Pereira was there, I was fortunate to know there was a little bit of a event organized by my friend Bhimrao, who was a senior for me. I can call him confidently my friend, but who was a senior professional and other people who organized that. And she planted a tree. We made her plant a tree before she passed away. And it is something humbling experience to plant something which is there, of course, which is many people are doing, but it's not a ritual. What you do it with meaning that trees are important. We know that how much we have now recently due to COVID, we have fought for oxygen and people have really struggled to get oxygen. So being aware of the community, the environment, being connected to that, appreciating that, how important it is, rather than sitting in your room and say, okay, everything I have found in my computer, everything is there. I know sometimes I talk to the youngsters and the millennials. He says, I find everything. I said, come on, let's go for a walk, or let's go to the beach, or let's go to the CNC. Now everything is there in the computer. I find everything. So this is a sad part, that how the generation is drifting from appreciating the environment in the real form to looking at it virtually and not being very responsible to that. And the final one is the financial wellness. Now, this has been bothering me quite some time, ever since when I joined the corporate. I am a HR professional, but no offense meant to the curriculum or the teaching, but I've seen the education system doesn't give any input into financial acumen. Unfortunately, I asked my daughters, are they studying anything about managing your finances? No. I asked many people, no, students, unfortunately, but this is a very critical aspect of it. aspect of survival in the society. Am I are the students financially literate? Financial literacy is, can they have able to live within their means? Today, more and more research says more and more people are struggling to make ends meet because of the inflation, because of the spending habits, because of now your needs are much more than your means. And sometimes people are not able to make the little basic needs, Maslow's hierarchy, if you see, the basic needs, food, clothing, shelter. Now, shelter is a big, big issue for many. Despite having master's qualification, despite having all sorts of degrees and qualifications you have. Research says 76% of millennials lack basic financial knowledge. Live within your means and learn to manage your finances for the short term or long term. I've seen sometimes people, they start earning within your first week, here as well in Australia, within your first week, the whole salary is blown off. Whatever has been earned is gone. Then you live in debt. And the debt becomes a stress, and debt becomes so much stress, people sometimes can commit suicide. It can be suicidal. So financial literacy, not only managing your own finances, but also helping organizations where you're working, because every organization needs finance. Like yesterday, I think someone asked a question, how are you funding your Open Eye International, or Eyes Open International? How are you funding? It's a finance question. For you to exist, you need to have money. Where are you getting the money from? Even if it's an education institution, even if it's an NGO, you need to have money. And if I am working in an NGO, I need to know how does my organization gets money and how do we spend it? I need to make my projects within the means what I have. Similarly, if I'm an HR professional, if I join an organization, when I go to the CFO and CEO, CFO, if I talk about HR, but I do not speak about the finance language, the return on investment, how does this particular payback to the organization, if I don't mention about it, the CFO will decline my whatever proposal I have put forward. Because of my financial literacy is low, or I'm not able to really show that return on investment, I don't really open my mind to that. That is very critical. HR becomes a cost center than an investment center, or the training and development can be seen as a cost rather than an investment. So having that acumen of investing, I still recall when I was in my, I think, high school in India, they started a little bit of called a Sanchayika bank, a little bit of for students. And every pocket money you get, you save and you put on that particular thing, which when I look back, has been a great initiative for students. That way is great initiative. But we are not really trained or taught what has to be done. So I could literally make some pocket money and save. But I would say saving can be sometimes boring. Saving has been taught by our parents, and save money, save. Now, save could be a boring and can be stressful because people would like to spend. But more, instead of saving, you say, how do you invest so that you can see the returns? Just like how do you plant a seed so that you can have a fruit? You plant a coconut and you get coconuts for life. You plant an apple seed and you get apples for things. You plant an orange and oranges for. So this is investment. So if you look at money, financial, think, okay, how do I can see the investment in something? You're doing investment, you're buying something, and that investment is very important. Does it in your curriculum? Does it in a particular thing? Projects like budgeting, simple thing, budgeting. There's a budget for this purpose. Everything what you give project, there's a budget. So making the students to work on maybe a simulation, a budget. So that time, probably they'll be aware about how critical it is, because no businesses all, at the end of the day, the bottom line is profit. No? If there is no profit, the businesses don't survive. That means there's no job. There are no jobs for people. So if every employee with higher education who comes into the streamline is able to understand the business language, now what is an asset, what is a liability, and how do I return? You may not be an expert on that. You may not read a balance sheet. That expertise is not required, but at least to understand and speak the finance language in the business, I think that goes a long way in that particular process. So with this, I have a closing question for you. Why knowledge of student wellness is critical for higher education professionals? Yes, Prakash, I think what you have mentioned, Prakash Cherian, credit card, yes, students, that's why the banks are not giving credit cards to students these days in Australia, because there can be a financial trap. Yes, family, personal budget, yeah. Okay, so if you can just put your views in, you're in the professional or higher education sector, teaching students, why student wellness is critical for you. They are the backbone of the nation. The future hinges upon them. Excellent, Shruti. Yeah, I like that, because you are building the leaders, developing leaders for future. So that's very important. You can customize your teaching. Yes, your teacher customize your teaching. Now, be aware about being holistic rather than being a subject matter expert in that particular area. Approach the student, approach that particular, yes. They are of the future of the society, yes. To deal with them effectively. Yeah, Bimrao, thank you very much. Yes. Learning process depends on it. Yes, absolute learning process. You're building confidence. That's a muscle you're trying to build in students. No, as Atul says, sound body and mind is essential for learning. Yeah, it is not, as I was speaking about, it is not only your IQ. No, IQ can get you the marks by memorizing. I think what I went through the entire education system was memorizing, and we lots of memorizing. We did memory. No, and then I hated that particular thing. Instead of giving experience, that's the reason I always remember when and another thing I think, when I did my undergraduation, I did in the college where a lot of students were there, about 3,000 students, and I was just a number. Good education, but I was a number. But when I moved to post-graduation, Roshnila, I became a member. And that member, being a family member, we had close relationship with the faculty, close relations with the students, other students. We felt like every day look forward to go to the institute, study, learn, library. Now, this is what is body and mind. Now, you're trying to have the social relationship development can happen when, and in a class of 20, 25 students, so much so, even the other day we had a virtual reunion on Zoom. Until today, after about 30 years, 35 years, we are away from the institute. We are still relating, connecting, just because of that 2 years bonding which took place in the institute. Yeah. You have to promote critical thinking, problem solving with the students. That's right. They are the potential mature men, as Bhutani says, and real life situations. Yeah. A society can be a great place. A society, a generation which is coming, a place, the whole cosmos can be a better place. Social life focus, Yes, Louis says forming them to learn to live happily and grow gracefully. I think fantastic views are required because students have deal situation gradually. Yes, Dr. Ravi Shankar says it is critical for teachers because more than faculty is involved with teaching is not in practicing. Yeah, more and more faculty, I can see that happening, and sometimes due to this particular online thing, it can be all the more. And student being sometimes smarter because of the smartphone and the other things, they think that I can manage everything with a smartphone. No, and that's where the missing link, where the teachers can also struggle to literally impart this. But having that attitude and being aware that development should be holistic rather than only subject knowledge, subject matter. Yeah, teachers will grow and help students to grow. I think that's a beautiful way of Ravindra has put it. It is not that, as I think Dr. Sheshagiri was speaking about, learning from students. No, teachers can grow. There's nothing that know it all. I have finished education. I've read everything, and there is nothing more to learn. Even today, I learn from my daughter on the PowerPoint what I need to do. I learn from my students when I teach. They tell me, sir, you do this particular thing. You have to cut paste. You have to do. I said, I didn't get this. I didn't have a computer when I was born. I didn't have a computer when I did masters. I didn't have a computer when I did my PhD. No. So you always used to queue up for a computer. No, I have to queue, stand in queue, put my name. Okay, next one is me, laptop for me. No. So this is what my state was. Whereas today, every student has a laptop. Every student has a smartphone. I think very soon the laptop also will go. They'll only have come to the class only with a smartphone. And that is happening in Australia very much. In my class, I can see students, they don't have books, they don't have computers, they come with a smartphone. And the smartphone, they do everything. They see the slides, they listen, they record, everything they do it. And sometimes they go on Facebook, social media, distraction is also there. Yes, as Bhimrao says, also, I think he's sending me a message, students can give feedback. Giving feedback is skills are very important. Feedback skills. Many a times we shun or we run away, avoid giving feedback because probably we don't have that skills of giving. I've seen in these managers, when I was working in the corporate sector, we had designed 3 days program just to develop feedback skills, giving feedback skills in managers. Because feedback, sometimes people think only wrong, bad, only think something which you are doing wrong. Constructive feedback, which can help the person develop. People look forward to the feedback because I've gained a lot from the feedback in my life. And feed forward, yes, feed forward is, if you look at the work of Marshall Goldsmith, no, I would like you to look at that YouTube's also. He speaks about feed forward. Feedback is for the past, but feed forward for the future. What you could do in this problem in the future. And that's very important because feedback sometimes could be sometimes draining. It can literally sometimes, you feel bad about it because it is past, unless if you have not got it in a proper way. But feed forward. That's what great teams, football teams, cricket teams, if you have seen in between, they take a break for 5 minutes and the coach comes to them and gives feedback. Hey guys, what you need to do going forward? This is a strategy you need to have. This is how you can win the game. This is how you need to play. Now, this is exactly, if you give students, the faculty can be a good coach to students and say, this is how, rather than giving, okay, marks, you are not done well, or you are good for nothing, or absolutely, I remember the labels and the things we got when we were growing. No, it literally damaged, butchered the self-esteem of the student. So how do you uphold the self-esteem? Because as I said right in the beginning, every student is unique with unique capabilities, remaining creative and helping to identify the true potential. Yeah. So yes, all that what you have said, I think towards the end, I would say, I will ask 1 minute, is leading by example. As the first speaker was speaking about Donald D'Souza, Mr. Donald D'Souza was in input said, leaders being leading by example, teachers leading by example because they are the role models. What I started with. Every student looks up to the teacher as a role model. Admitting what you do not know and coming prepared. That's fine. Students are more forgiving. I feel students have much more forgiveness than sometimes we as teachers have. So they're more forgiving when you admit, okay, I've goofed up on that. I didn't prepare on this particular thing. I will come to you and give it to you next class. So being a role model, leading by example, helping students, I think we have a great, all faculty have a great mission and purpose, a noble profession always, because in society, you can say a noble profession is a teacher's profession. For a civilized, we are going to prepare a civilized society, a robust democracy, making students global citizens. I think this is our mission. This is, if we do that, I think mission accomplished, and we are leaving a great legacy behind. With that note, I close my session. Thank you very much for your listening. Hope you found it useful. And thank you once again for the organizing team for giving me this opportunity to share. I wish you all, teaching faculty, good luck and all the best in fulfilling your purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. I now invite my colleague, Assistant Professor Veena BK, to moderate the question-answer session. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Warm greetings to all. Thank you very much, Dr. Nelson de Souza. Free of time, we shall take only 2 questions posted earlier in the chat box. Dr. Ravi Shankar wants to know more about the ways of enhancing emotional wellness.
Yeah. As I said earlier, emotional wellness or emotional intelligence is a science by itself. But simple things, for example, having interactions between students and having a debrief with the students on an incident. Probably because you can see in students, you can see conflict happening. Okay, you can see their organization, there is student conflict, students are fighting. You bring them together and say, look at their viewpoints, coach them, give them input, help them to realize, most importantly, in leadership management language, you say, what is right rather than who is right. We always in conflict in social wellness, people try to say who is to be blamed, the blame game, or you're trying to see who is right and who is wrong. Moving away from who is right and who is wrong, what is right and what is wrong. So you isolate the individual from the incidents, or detach the individual from the incidents and look at the incidents objectively, can give some insights on emotional wellness. Why did I get upset about it? What made me to get upset about it? Being reflective. It is always said, it is not reaction, but how we respond to it. I've seen in this whole COVID situation, is a great thing on emotional wellness. Many people have overreacted. Many have overreacted. Many have been feared as so much of fear has been instilled. So much so, people are scared so much. They are not able to detach themselves and look at things objectively and say, what I need to do as an individual? What is right things to be done? Rather than blaming each other and trying to go in that blame game, where is the emotional wellness? You are unnecessarily boiling your blood, you are unnecessarily spoiling your health, you are spoiling your things, absolutely. No? So how many times, if you can help students and say, how many times in the day you lost your temper or couldn't manage your anger? In management language, when we teach managers, we used to say, before you shout at your team member, count 10. Do not shout at your team member because the team member is important, because you couldn't control your emotions. Count 10. That 10, probably by 10, you will be able to know is not required to shout. It's not required to scream at the person. So there are many simple ways, small ways. No, it is not giving lecture to the person or something like that. But incidences are the best, examples are the best way of probably giving case studies on emotional wellness, asking students to really manage this particular. No, there is a fight between two people on a particular issue. How do the students really look at it? Solve it. So the whole science of emotional intelligence, I would urge you to look at Daniel Goleman's videos, who is the father of emotional intelligence, EQ, which will throw some great light, and probably you can also develop little insights into developing emotional wellness. It is not a overnight, it is not a recipe that, okay, I can get it a quick fix, but it is a journey. It is a journey. Social emotional wellness is a journey. Like any other wellness, everything is a journey, and there is no end. No, you are traveling in that journey. Okay.
Sir, Mr. Mohan Kumar asked, what is the relationship between emotional wellness and defense mechanism?
I'm not an expert on this particular thing to give that much of insight into emotional wellness and defense mechanism. Yes, but for my lay understanding, from my experience over the years, the moment you are defensive or defense mechanisms you are using, what I recall, I'm just like to fall back on my learning in abnormal psychology and psychology when I did my master's at Roshnila, where you have to learn defense mechanisms. And we used to use that defense mechanisms very often without knowing what it is. But in my career, I've seen how people can be using defense mechanisms because they are not able to cope with their emotions, manage their emotions, revisit, looking within self. I think connecting with self, Dr. Sheshagiri was speaking about spirituality. You are not able to connect with yourself. No, you can't empathy. There is no empathy in the situation. No. You're not able to looking at from a other's point of view. You're not able to get into the shoes of others and say, how do they feel about it? What is their view? So sometimes, teachers can use defense mechanisms. No, not only students. No, sometimes I've seen, in my own career, my senior leaders are saying, I may sometimes might have used defense mechanism. Not that, okay, I can say that, okay, I've done everything, having very high emotional intelligent or EQ. But as I said, it's a journey. And you can, when you look within yourself, you can tell whether I was truthful, honest to myself, the value of integrity, or I was putting up a show and telling something or trying to defend in a particular process and saying, okay, this is what is right. And then, okay, so, okay, I managed to fool that person, or I win over him. I could win over him, That's not the purpose. Can I, in the whole process, have a win-win situation? Can I make friends in the whole process and say, okay, fair enough. Am I willing to lose the battle and win the war? And that's very important sometimes, how willing we are to lose the battle and win the war. That comes to spirituality, spiritual wellness, which is linked to also, everything is integrated, no? Everything is integral development. Yeah. Okay, I think I do not know whether I answered your question fully, but this is my understanding, little bit of I could share with you. And if it is not really fully answered, pardon me for that.
Thank you again, Dr. Nelson de Souza, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. That's all from me. Over to Dr. Sandra Lobo.
Thank you, Professor Veena. Dear participants, the feedback link will be provided on the chat box on Zoom, YouTube, as well as on the Telegram group during the valedictory program. So kindly bear with us. Our speaker from Australia marveled us. As a participant, we have Dr. Padmini Pai, Program Lead, Clinical Governance Unit, Ministry of Health, NSW, Australia, from Wollongong, in fact, near Sydney, to render words of appreciation to our speaker. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Just checking if you can hear me.
Yes, very
Yes, we
clear.
can.
Thank you. Thank you. It's definitely my honor and privilege to say a few words of thanks and gratitude to Dr. Nelson de Souza. It's lovely to know that we are about an hour and a half away, but I got the opportunity to listen to you today in person. Like you mentioned, gratitude is one of the few virtues that actually gives us a double dopamine hit. When we express gratitude, it fulfills us as much as it fulfills the receiver. So please accept our heartfelt gratitude, Nelson, from, I'm actually checking 155 people who listened to you today. I think the main take-home messages for me personally was your farmer mindset. I'm going to go and read up a little more about it. Such a beautiful concept, almost so close to permaculture and our own culture. Also, to see the potential of the seed is infinite. That's another really good thing for us to take home and think about. The need for us to network, and network is actually our net worth. That was beautiful, very well said as well. And I think above all, your most important message for all of us today is to be kind to ourselves. And I think if kindness can stem from us to us, we are the first link, and then it'll overflow to everyone else around us. And the interconnectedness, you explained that so beautifully to all of us. Also, in very simple ways and in a very conversational style, you explain to us the 8 aspects of well-being, so clear and so concise. Importance of feedback, also volunteering. And I think, we do so much of spontaneous work in our own families, in our own extended families. But when we're talking about a student mindset, to go outside our comfort zone and to make us job friendly, to volunteer much more than our close circle, our church, our family, where we've already gained those skills, to put it in a professional context is something for us to think about. Definitely ROI and return on investment is the way everything is going, including HR. I think feed forward is something for all of us to go and read up immediately. We also know that the day you plant the seed is not the day you reap the fruit. And what Roshni Nilaya has done for all of us, including myself, I worked in Roshni in the beginning of my career before moving. I was just there for a year, but developed deep connections. So I'm sure what we have witnessed in Nelson is one seed that maybe Roshni planted, that, and you have now grown, blossomed, flourished, and planted many more seeds in all of us today, including your students and everyone around you as well. So thank you very much to Roshni. And I'm sure anything from the heart touches our heart, and aptly Daughters of the Heart of Mary. And I'm just also thinking of all the sisters and the nuns who've sacrificed to make it such a great institution. I really want to say a big thank you, being the last day today. Of course, we know that well begun is half done. And I think in Sandra, we all see not just a friend, a teacher, and also a person who's got the art and science of fantastic boundaries. So Sandra, you know when to be tough and when to be tender. And I think your opening remarks of exploring, expanding, and excelling of Azim Premji's concepts really set the scene. So thank you for that, Sandra. We also know that what Nelson mentioned in that triangle of spirituality is about us finding meaning, finding our purpose, and also valuing everything around us that's important for us, as well as being ready for change. So in this world, which is all about change, for example, it's very important for us to realize that what people are actually wanting is wanting to see our example and not our opinions. So for all of us to walk our talk is the most inspiring thing that we've all gained from this whole week's deliberations. And a very, very special thanks. I wish I had a whole list of people to mention here, but I know that a success that is this huge, that has sustained us throughout the week, there is an entire team who would have worked relentlessly in every aspect. So each of you have given your best to us, given your skill to us, and my heartfelt gratitude to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Padmini. Yeah, I'm impressed that I'm glad that you are very close, and we should connect here. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased to virtually connect to two close associates, both from down under. Thank you, Dr. Nelson, and thank you, Dr. Padmini Pai. We now have a very brief valedictory program to encapsulate the week-long virtual program. I invite the organizing secretary, Dr. Kiran Prasad B. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. As the organizing secretary, I'm pleased to place before you a brief report of 7 days International Faculty Development Program on the theme Global Vision for Academic Excellence. An international virtual faculty development program on Global Vision for Academic Excellence was organized by School of Social Work Roshni Nilaya, Mangalore, along with IQAC and Center for International Academic Network from 5th July to 11th July 2021. The inauguration of this 7 days International Virtual Faculty Development Program began with the invocation by Dr. Janice Mary, Vice Principal, School of Social Work, Roshni Nilaya, Mangalore. Dr. Juliet CJ, Principal, School of Social Work, Roshni Nilaya, inaugurated the program and welcomed the delegates. In her welcome, she emphasized the importance of a global vision in today's education. Dr. Juliet highlighted the importance of education, community being connected across boundaries and cultures to come together to share best practices and ideas so that the role of the educator becomes perfect. Dr. Meena Montero, Dean, Postgraduate Department, delivered the concept note. She highlighted that this international virtual meet will help to improve faculty members' personal and professional skills in higher education. It would also allow the individuals to understand and realize their full potential, as well as to optimize their contribution to the institute and its stakeholders to lead successful professional life. This virtual meet has witnessed participation from 950 participants from across the globe. Mr. Donald D'Souza, Director of HR EMEA, Oracle Corporation, currently based out of UK, was the first speaker at this international virtual meet. The theme of the day was dynamic participatory leadership, and true to the theme, the session was truly dynamic, and Mr. D'Souza spoke about the meaning of dynamic and what it means to be a dynamo. Being dynamic or lively is not just critical at the workplace, but also is a critical aspect of life in general. A dynamic person attracts others, keeps people interested, is upbeat and positive, always looks to progress, and is therefore more successful in convincing others, and thus a critical trait that any educator must possess. On day 2, we had Mr. Jagdish Shekhar Naik, co-founder and CEO of Talent Tree India, as the resource person. He spoke on the theme Alma Mater Alumni Engagement for Institutional Eminence. Mr. Naik is a widely known entrepreneur who has worked with many people in the area of talent management. He began his remarks that people succeed best by helping others succeed. Education institutes are best poised to do this, and quality education is a product of quality teaching, quality tools, and quality environment. Most institutes today aim to make humans capable of thinking and acting, possess the knowledge and skills required to further the profession and the community. The resource person on day 3 was Dr. Sister Anita Bird from Chicago, United States of America, a member of the religious congregation of the Society of the Daughter of Heart of Mary. Sister Anita has received awards for invoking spirituality among communities and standing for racial justice in the Black community. Sister Anita spoke on the theme of college campus spirituality. She highlighted about absolute requirement of spirituality among the students, especially those pursuing higher education. Sister Anita mentioned that higher education must make students explore their spirituality using theories and knowledge. She also emphasized the commonality and what makes religion and spirituality different, referring to the definitions of each. Sister Anita also mentioned the measures for attaining spirituality, such as spiritual quest, equanimity, ethic of caring, ecumenial worldview. On the 4th day, we had Professor Prakash Gusans, an international representative of Fracarita International, an international NGO of the Brothers of Charity, active in mental health care, education, and care for the disabled. Mr. Gusans spoke on the theme Globalization and Academic Diplomacy, Future of Partnerships. He continued saying, globalization is the key factor in modern world. Colonization, imperialism, and globalization have had an impact on the way we think and interact with the world. Currently, we can see a clear hegemony in US, Europe, and China. To remark countries such as India, Latin America, etc., we are not currently in a position to do a hegemony, and this impacts education. Globalization is a tsunami that sweeps away the local culture, philosophy, thinking, ideas, etc. Mr. Gusans further continued to say that it is a challenge for the educational institutions to interact in this complex environment, and to conclude, Mr. Gusans said that there are 4 possible scenarios based on what drives an institute. The main drivers, according to him, are international, national, market demand driven, and administration supply driven. On day 5, we had Dr. Ellen Sheshagiri as the resource person, an expert in soft skills and teaching skills, counseling, and quality in higher education. Dr. Sheshagiri said that academic and human excellence can be better understood as academic excellence for human excellence. Dr. Sheshagiri spoke about diverse ideas that revolves around the idea of quality education. He also mentioned that quality cannot be assumed as a non-measurable aspect. According to him, institutions should achieve quality considering the process as a journey and not a destination. He also touched on the relationships with the spiritual and divine being, a factor that describes quality. Dr. Sheshagiri emphasized the weight carried by the word excellence and its origins. In terms of excellence, he questioned if the accomplishments are exceptional. He included social, moral, ethical, and spiritual excellence, and the ideas such as charity, giving, and healing fellow beings as helping God, which is in turn indicates human excellence. On day 6, we had Mr. Hriday Rawal, Regional Director, Eyes Open International, USA, who represented the resource person, Mr. Harold D'Souza, co-founder, Eyes Open International. The theme of the day was College to Community Extension Services. Mr. Rawal firstly gave detailed information about Mr. Harold D'Souza and the genesis of the Eyes Open International. Mr. Harold D'Souza was a victim of labor trafficking. After being freed, he co-founded the Eyes Open International, an NGO that collaborates with other NGOs worldwide. This NGO helps victims affected with various forms of trafficking. Mr. Rawal also mentioned the seriousness of business of trafficking that which takes place all over the world in varied forms. He says that their organization at large focuses on the victims of trafficking and reintegrating them back into the society after victimization. In the next segment, Mr. Rawal spoke about the conditions and tactics used by traffickers and the types of trafficking. He stated that victims face a lot of abuse. The conditions of victims are poor due to being held captive inside containers on the transport ships. And he also mentioned that only 1 out of 10 make it out alive in certain circumstances. Mr. Rawal later played a video clip of Mr. Harold D'Souza talk on YouTube, where he describes the experiences of being victimized to trafficking and also present solutions for the same. Mr. Rawal also pointed out and laid emphasis on the matter that most of the trafficking in the modern world happens through virtual means in terms of social media, dark web, and through means of cryptocurrency. He also added that through the web, the one can do so be scammed, sold, or become part of body organ smuggling. In the end, Mr. Rawal pointed out certain measures and potential solutions to combat trafficking. They were recruiting and training students to join NGOs concerned with trafficking and to take their help in background tasks, to do ground level activism and voice out against such crimes. Third one, which we suggested, was being active and vigilant, then approaching and taking to the law enforcement, establishing advisory council in India, establishing helpline number, following basic cybersecurity routines, and raising awareness. The resource person on day 7 was Dr. Nelson D'Souza, leadership and talent development professional from Sydney, Australia. He spoke about student wellness and integral development. Dr. Nelson mentioned that the leadership of higher education has rapidly changed. In a knowledge economy, he spoke in the context of farmer mindset and faculty as a leader. He shared statistics of stark reality related to workforce, suicide, and divorce. While talking about the importance of feedback, he said that champions are born out of feedback. He stressed on the importance of voluntary work and pointed out that emotional intelligence and financial security becomes more important as one grows in their career. With that, I conclude the report. Thank you for patient listening. Over to you, Sandra, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran. We at School of Social Work, Mangaluru, Karnataka, South India, are delighted to have stretched our hand in collaboration towards the formation of an intercontinental community of purpose for academic achievement via a virtual mode. On behalf of the principal, management, and organizing committee, I extend my sincere appreciation to the following members of the advisory committee of the program. Dr. Lidwin Dias, Principal, College of Social Work, Nirmala Niketan, Mumbai. Dr. Anthony Sebastian, Director, JD Academy of Excellence, Chennai. Dr. Xavier Organdi, Dean, Social Work, Sacred Heart University, Connecticut. Dr. Jonas Richard A., Head, Department of Social Work, Christu Jayanti College, Bengaluru. And Assistant Professor James Michael Raj, Controller of Examinations, Christ College of Arts and Science, Tiruvallur. We often take for granted individuals that most deserve our gratitude. I beg to differ. So on behalf of the principal of the college, Dr. Juliet C.J., and the secretary of the Institute of Social Service, Assistant Professor Evelyn Bennis, I would like to acknowledge and sincerely appreciate our very own Vice Principal, Dr. Janice Mary, for conceptualizing this virtual international faculty development program, and the organizing secretary, Dr. Kiran Prasad B., for executing the thought process into an altruistic act of collective learning. Words of appreciation to Dr. Sister Anita Bird from the United States of America for being our international partner, besides taking up a session during this virtual program. We thank all the other speakers, namely Mr. Donald Souza from United Kingdom, Mr. Jagdish Shekhar Naik from India, Professor Prakash Gusins from Belgium, Dr. Ellen Sheshadri from India, Mr. Hriday Rawal, who spoke on behalf of Mr. Harold D'Souza, and Dr. Nelson D'Souza from Australia. The host college would like to thank our participants from all over the world for engaging in such an active academic webcast. Some of the participants have been closely associated with us, like our alumni, colleagues, patrons, stakeholders, and well-wishers. Let us carry this week-long program as a memory to last. So I request all the participants on the Zoom platform to turn on your cameras for a photo session. May I request Dr. Kiran Prasad to help capture this session. And do let me know when we are done with it. So here we go. Lights, camera, Zoom.
Few more minutes, please be patient. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran. As we draw to a close, I would like to remind all participants who are academicians of repute from various educational institutions to fill the feedback form provided on the chat boxes, both on Zoom and YouTube, and on the Telegram group as well. We shall accept all the feedback forms latest by the 15th of this month, and thereafter, we would have to toggle it off such that e-certificates could be generated, which would be emailed within 2 weeks from today. As academicians, we could do our bit and contribute towards academic excellence. I earnestly urge all the delegates to answer the feedback form. We have come to the close of the program. I, Dr. Sandra Lobo, thank each one of you for your presence and academic contribution. Let's stay connected while staying apart. Thank you.
Dear participants, the feedback link has been given on all 3 platforms. Please fill the feedback form. Thank you.